Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be building this pricing block from Frontend Mentor using HTML and PuRE CSS. You can follow along with this tutorial or you can find the finished source code on my GitHub, linked down below. But before we get started, I wanted to thank the sponsor for today's video, Kite. Kite is a free code completion tool powered by machine learning. It integrates with code editors like VS Code and honestly has helped me write code faster. One of the cool things about Kite is that as you're coding, it'll give you options that are actually ranked by relevance for your particular coding patterns. This means that as you keep writing code over time, Kite will learn what properties you tend to use and puts those at the very top of the list. Kite is sponsoring this video, but I genuinely think that their tool is pretty great. I've been using their VS Code integration for several months now, and I've definitely noticed that my autocomplete speed has increased. It is free, so I recommend that you try it for yourself and see if you like it. The link to Kite is down below in the description. Alright, let's get back to this video. So on Frontend Mentor, if you want to follow along yourself, you can go to the frontendmentor.io site and you can click the Start Challenge free button if you don't want to pay for the Figma or Sketch files. And we're working from JPEGs today, so we're doing the free version. So when you click that, you'll download the starter files, which we have open already here. So it gives you index.html. It also gives you a style guide markdown file, which is helpful for colors and font sizes and also fonts themselves. And then I started creating a style.css file because we need to add those styles in. So let's close that. And then I'm going to click the Go Live button down here in VS Code. And that's a VS Code extension that you can use to create a local server and load your files that way. So there's nothing here because we haven't added any styles yet. Let's start doing that now. So in our index.html file, we added a link to load the style.css file. And I am using PuRE CSS in this video. I did a poll recently on my YouTube channel asking if people preferred CSS or Sass. Most people said CSS, I think because maybe a lot of people don't know Sass yet. So I'm going to do both because I really like Sass. But we will be doing PuRE CSS here. So let's add some of these global styles in our CSS file. First thing I usually do is box sizing border box. That ensures that adding padding to elements won't affect the final width. It'll kind of be included in the final width or height. Also do font size, 100. And you can see already that the IntelliSense from Kite is giving you the font size 100% as an option. And that's because the AI is kind of learning what you tend to do with properties, and I have had Kite running for a while on my computer, so it just makes things a bit quicker. So then for the wildcard for before and after pseudo elements, as well as all elements with the wildcard, we're going to go box sizing, inherit. And that will inherit the border box from HTML. And then for body, one thing I usually do is I like to do font size I do font size, it'll inherit 100% from HTML, which usually is 16 pixels or 1 rem. But I do sort of like adding a line height of like 1.3 just by default, just because line height of 1 tends to be a little close together. You don't have to do this. This is just something that I personally like doing. Okay, so you can see the site has been changing just a little bit as we have started adding our styles here. So it's good because we know that it is working. So let's get the font going here. I guess you can control click that. Sure, we'll open that. So this is the Carla font. So it says weights 400 and 700. So 400 is regular. And then I want to do 700 too. Here we go, bold. Okay, now, let's see. Here we go. And that should be good. So I will just copy this link here. Add it to the index.html up at the top. I'll probably add it before my style.css so it can make sure to get the fonts from Google in the styles. And then font family Carla sans serif. So we'll add that to the body as well. Okay, so you can close that now. And also in our files, we have the design images. And again, we're just working from JPEGs. So here we have the desktop, and then we have the mobile design. So let's take a look at these. So going on the mobile, we have this white join our community box, then we have a monthly subscription box, and then at the bottom a why us box. So we have 3 boxes: join community, subscription, why us. And let's compare that to the desktop design and see how that stacks up. So on the desktop, join our community is at the top, it's going all the way across. Then under that we have the subscription and the why us in 50% columns. So the order is the same. Yeah, order is the same, but we're probably going to use CSS Grid to control the template layout, since we have this going all the way across and then 50% width on those. And it looks like this box is, a certain width, and it'll kind of be centered vertically and horizontally. And the same for this. So let's kind of get our code editor sort of laid out the way we want. So I'm going to have the styles on the bottom and then the HTML on the top. Okay. Looking back at the style guide, we want to add in our colors as well. And I think, usually I use Sass, but I think this would be a good opportunity to use CSS variables. So I actually haven't used CSS variables a ton, just because I am pretty reliant on Sass. So this will be a little learning experience as well for me. CSS custom properties, it's another name for the variables. Okay, so you're set using custom property notation, and I believe, from what I know, people tend to like setting them on the root element, if that's correct. Yeah, so root, and then you can name your variable, and then add the color value. So let's do that now. I guess I'll just add this under everything else. So, actually, maybe I'll put the CSS on the top and the index.html on the bottom. I'm trying to have both open with the website on the right side just to see how that looks. Okay, so root, and let's see what we want to call our colors here. Cyan, bright yellow, light gray, and grayish blue. So we'll just probably use the same names there. I wonder how people tend to name their variables. Let's see, here we go. Mozilla Developer Network. Okay. So we'll just kind of create simple names for these. I think the first one was cyan. Yeah, let's move this down here. So cyan. And we'll do HSL, which is just a different color notation. And one cool thing about VS Code is that you can, I believe, it lets you switch if you just click. So this is hex, HSL, RGB. HSL is kind of, I think it wasn't used super widely until sort of recently. I've always used text colors, but people like HSL because it'll sort of darken and lighten in a more sort of realistic way and maintaining the color, as opposed to Sass has like darken and lighten functions, but it kind of affects I think the color a little bit. So anyway, then we'll just call this yellow. Yellow. And then we got, I guess, I'll say LT gray for light gray. And grayish blue. We'll say gray blue. Okay, let's check out our designs again. So looks like each of the blocks, they have sort of different colors. I'm guessing the light gray is this sort of almost white color down there. Yeah, and there, I think I'm actually going to close the design files here and then open them in an external program. All right, so we got desktop design here, and then the mobile design. This is just a very simple image loading program called IrfanView for Windows that I use, but you can use whatever you want. Maybe I should have put this in an exe file after all. Okay. So looking at the color of the text, do I want to set a default color on the body? I suppose I could set it to that light gray color. Although the first block has, it doesn't have a light gray since it's a light background. But I think because the majority of them are a green color, I'm going to set it as the default color. Yeah, let's do that. Color, and to call the color, I want to do the light gray. Okay. Is that right? All right, let's see how the site looks. Oh yeah, there we go, light gray. And I'm just gonna close these as well. All right, now let's start building. I'm going to do mobile first, since we try to keep mobile first. It's not like I like building the desktop first, but I think this design is simple enough that desktop isn't like super different from the mobile version. So the first block is join our community. So since this is kind of the price block is a section in itself, I'm going to create a new section tag, and we'll just say price. Keep it simple, right? And I do like using VS Code a lot because the Emmet plugin, which it kind of comes with VS Code, it has all those shortcuts for you. So everything's going to be in this section tag, and then I'm going to add the top div, and let's just call that community. Then we'll create one for subscription, and then one for why. Why? Okay. Honestly, I think I'm going to put everything up at the top. I think it's a little bit too little space to try to do a stacked thing, so this is fine. Okay, now we are going to use CSS Grid to lay this out. So the price section tag is going to be the CSS Grid parent. So let's start setting that up. So it's going to be price, community, subscription, and why. So here we'll say price. Should I turn CSS Grid on for both mobile and desktop, or should I only use it on desktop? Let's see. If I just do, yeah, maybe I'll just turn CSS Grid on just for desktop. So that means I want to add a media query. So media. Ooh, let's see what we got here. And min width. It's kind of funny seeing like the different kite things pop up. Min width is, let's just use our calculator to figure out. We'll just say desktop stuff starts at maybe 1,000 pixels. And usually you try to put your media query widths in EMs. So that's divided by 16. So pixels divided by 16 will get you EMs or rems. So 62.5 EMs. There we go. So we'll just use that for our desktop media queries. So this means that once you hit that 62.5 EMs minimum and greater, it'll use these styles here for desktop. So here we'll turn on grid. So before that, let's put in our mobile styles. Okay, so in the price block itself, it looks like we got some padding going on, but I might just add the padding to each of the individual blocks here. And it looks like they're probably very similar. So let's first get the layout going. So going back to our HTML, we're going to say join our community in the first box, and I'm going to make that an H2. Join our community, so we kind of know, what the heading is and stuff. And then what should we call that? I guess that could be an H3, so we can do that. And then I'll use a paragraph tag for this. Okay, maybe I'll press Alt-Z to word wrap in VS Code. Okay, that seems pretty good. So we'll kind of do the same thing for the other blocks here. So the next one is monthly subscription. And we got H3. I guess I'll just add the P tag. P tag. Monthly subscription. Okay, this is actually a little bit different. So I don't need the H3 there. So $29 per month. This one's a bit might require a little bit of work just because the $29 is much bigger than the per month. So I think I might need to make that a div. I'm going to say subscription __ price. This is the BEM block element modifier approach I use to naming my classes. Even though we're not using Sass and we can't do nesting, I will still use the same naming convention just because I think it's good. So we got that. And $29 is bigger, so we're going to put that into a span. That will allow us to style it to be different than the per month text. Okay, full access for $1 a day. We'll put that in the paragraph. And then there's a button here, sign up. And since this is not a forum, I'm guessing this shouldn't be a button element, but rather an anchor link that will style to look like a button. Okay, sign up. And that's that for that block. And then now the YS block. So again, this will be an H2. And then this looks like it's just a list. So I might actually make that into a list, even though there's no bullet points or anything. So UL, and then this is using the Emmet shortcuts. Angle bracket for LI. And then if you use times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 7, press enter, and there we have it, unordered list with 7 list elements. So it's one way that Emmet really does save you a lot of time. There we go. And I probably could also do layout with Flexbox. You can build almost anything in either Flexbox or Grid. That's kind of one of my themes that I like to mention a lot because it's not like one's better or worse. They're just different tools, and they do have different strengths and weaknesses, but I think I decided to go with Grid for this one because it just seemed like it would be a good way to utilize the Grid template. There we go. All right, let's check out our site, which everything is light gray. So let's actually, okay, also this link, we need to style our links. So under here, I'm gonna go anchor link. And I want text decoration. Decoration, if I can type, none. I don't want that underlined, so you can see it disappeared. Text decoration, none, and then I will modify the colors and stuff just per block. Okay, so it looks pretty good. So let's start styling the first block. Okay, so the first one is the community block. Community, and if we go back to our design, community is background is color, hold on. So actually it looks like the body is the gray blue, I'm guessing. So we're gonna do this background color var gray blue. Okay, that's not the same color. Is it? No, it is definitely not. Hold on, let's check the desktop design. Yeah, it's like a light, oh, maybe it's light gray. Let's try. Light gray. How does that look? Okay, that's actually very close. I wonder if the gray blue is actually this text here. So let's change that. That actually makes sense because it was like very light. Okay. And we got, maybe I'll make another one for white. White. Let's convert that to HSL. Okay, 0. Okay, so now in the community block, background color is going to be white. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's trying to detect stuff. Yeah, so the thing about the Kite thing is that it'll be kind of weird when you first start because it has to learn from the actual code that you write. So the more you write, the more it'll be able to see what you tend to use, and then it'll filter stuff at the top. Okay, so this is good. Background color is white. And then going back to the design. So the joiner community is a green color. Looks like there's this green, which is a bit darker, and then this green, which is a little bit less dark. Yeah, I wonder if they missed giving you a color here. Let me see. One cool thing about OpenView is if I hold down, it'll tell me the color. It's kind of like a color picker. Oh yeah. I'm just gonna convert this to hex because that's what OpenView tells you. So 2AB, 2AF, 29B, 4B1, 4AB, EBD. Interesting. I guess I could try to lighten it using the lightness percentage. So maybe I'll create a new color here. So Control D will duplicate the line. I'll say light cyan, make this a bit lighter. And the lightness, 100% is white, like max lightness. So let's try maybe 50. Okay, we can figure that out as we get on there. I don't want it to be too light. I wonder if actually this needs to be a bit darker. Anywho, yeah, 2BB, and this is 2AB. So needs to be slightly darker. Let's try 40. This is gonna be causing me a little different from the design, I think, but okay. So now we have the darker cyan and then the lighter cyan. So I think the joiner community is probably the darker cyan color. And we'll say, oh, this is funny because I can't nest because it's pure CSS. Community H2, and we'll say color var cyan. There we go. I think the font weight probably should be bold. Font weight bold. There we go. Alrighty. Let me put in the colors and then we'll get those font sizes better. Okay, so the next one is 30-day thing. The H3 is going to be that yellow color. So just select that, press Control D to duplicate, and change it to H3. And I'll change this to yellow. I think it's also bold, right? Yeah. Okay, and then the paragraph tag needs to be smaller, obviously. This is a little bigger, it looks like. And then this might be a little bit smaller. So we're just going to, we'll say that this is probably 16. So we'll say font, community P. We'll say font size is 1 rem. And I try to use rems because it's better for accessibility, because it allows the user to control the font size by adjusting the base font size in their browser. If you set it in pixels, then the user can't actually adjust the font size by zooming or whatever. So that looks pretty good. And then line height needs to be greater, I think. You can kind of see. The line height should be 1.5 maybe? I feel like everything is a bit smaller too. Okay, hopefully it doesn't blue screen during this. That would be kind of sad. It blue screened yesterday. Alright, so if 1 rem is the base font size, it looks like this is actually smaller, so I'm going to try to eyeball this. Instead do 0.75 rems. It's a bit too small, maybe 8.5. Okay, I think that's better. And then let's size the other ones as well. So font size, it is bigger, but it needs to be, I'm not sure how big this is. This is just taking the default browser styles for H2 tags. It looks like it's 24, which is probably a little bit bigger than we want. So it's 24, so which is probably 16 is 1, so maybe 1.25 rems. Let's see if that looks better. It's actually pretty close. We'll keep it at 1.25 rems. And that is 20 pixels. 20 pixels, this H3 is a little bit smaller. So font size, let's try 1.2 rems because it does seem, actually let's try 1 rem for that because the paragraph is a bit smaller. That actually seems pretty good. Okay, line height I think still needs to be bigger. It's like almost 2 actually. 1.75 seems okay. And it looks like there's a kind of a max width on this, so in OrphanView I can use this little selector to estimate the width. So it's about 310. So let me think about this. I don't necessarily want to say 310 pixels because that's not really responsive. I'm just assuming that on mobile, you know, you want it to be smaller. So let's actually do this so we can check out what we got here. So this is going to be 375. So and this is 375 total. And there's a little bit of padding there, right? So let's kind of guess how much that padding is. Well, not guess, sort of guess using this tool, 30 pixels. Okay, so 30 pixels of space between the block and the outside. So I think what I'm going to do is on body, add padding of about 30 pixels, which is trying to convert that to rems. See, this is why I like Sass, because, yeah. This is why I like Sass, because I can create a mixin to convert from pixels to rems, but it's all good. It's a good learning experience for me too. Let's just see how much that ends up being. Body, so the padding is 24, so let's make it a bit more. 1.75 rems, 28. Let's try 1.8. 28.8. Whatever, 1.8 is close enough for me. So I wonder if I can make some more variables with this. So it looks like 30 pixels there. And then inside the box, this is about also 30 pixels on the top. And then this is about 30 also. Okay, well, maybe a little bit less, 24. Okay, so it's 24 on the left and right. And that's all the way down. So I might create a variable for the horizontal padding and then the vertical padding, just because I can then reuse it. So that's one cool thing about CSS now is that they have variables. So it's one less thing that you're completely dependent on Sass for. So we'll say padding X. It will do that, padding X. And that's going to be, what was it, 1.8 rems I said? And then we'll make one for padding Y for horizontal padding. And that's 24, which I think maybe 1.5 rems is relatively close to that. So that way, for the padding on the body, we can just use the var padding X. And we'll just do that all the way around. There we go. All right, now, going back to the community block. So we're doing the same padding in each of these blocks. So I think I can actually say, use a selector. So any direct child of the price section tag. So it has, you know, each of the blocks is a direct child of the price element. So what we can do is say price, using the direct child selector, and then I could say wildcard since they're all divs, or I could say div. I'll just say wildcard because we're not going to add any more to the markup. So we'll say padding is going to be var padding X for the first one, and then var padding Y for the vertical. So that means every block is going to automatically have this padding that we just created. And we only need to do one style rule for that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Yeah, we're making progress. There's a little extra stuff going on here. There's more space than I think there should be. And I think it's because, yeah, so by default, there's going to be margins added to all the headline tags. And that's something that I usually like to cancel out. So what I like doing is H1, H2, H3. I don't think I'm going to use an H4, so we'll just go H1 through H3. Margin top is 0 because I don't want it. There we go. I like keeping the margin bottom because I just like adding space at the bottom of elements to add space. And that's just the approach that I do for everything. So I know it's always going to be on the bottom so I don't get mixed up. Now let's check the design and see if we've missed anything big. It does look like there's a bit of a border radius going on. So I don't want to add that to just the block because, you know, they're they shouldn't have the border radius when the blocks meet each other. So it's going to be on the price thing itself. Border radius, it wasn't super round. This is probably like 5 to 10 pixels maybe. So let's try 0.5 rems. That's 8 pixels. See what happens. And I think I need to add a overflow hidden. This is because the overflow hidden means that it'll hide anything that goes outside of the bounds of the price block. And since the background color for the community block, it's white, and so it won't sort of adhere to the border radius since the border radius was set on the parent. But if we set overflow hidden, it means that the border radius will sort of, almost like a cookie cutter, it'll like go straight down and trim off the community block and the other child elements as well. It was looking pretty close. Let's see what we got here. The spacing looks okay. Looks like it's slightly more for this. Let's see what we have here. So the margin bottom is 16 pixels about, and then on this one it is 16 also. So we'll add a little bigger margin to the H2. Margin bottom. And we'll say a little more than 16, maybe 1.25 rems. Okay, that's a bit better. This looks pretty close to the design, I think. I think the line height on the H3 needs to be a little bit less. Also, for headline tags, it's good to have a smaller line height than you do for the rest of your copy. Just because paragraphs, I think because there's more of it, you need that extra space to make it more readable. But for headlines, it's actually better to have it less because headlines tend to be, 1 to 2, maybe 3 lines. So if there's too much space in it, it doesn't read like it's one sort of cohesive thing. So I think the line height for the headline tag is 1.1. Okay, maybe a little bit, tiny bit more, 1.15. Okay, this is pretty good. So, working from the JPEGs, we just have to kind of eyeball and estimate a lot of things. In a work environment, you do kind of need to work from the design to get the exact spacing and font sizes and stuff. So, if I was doing this for work, I would probably need the actual design, but we're just using the free version of Frontend Mentor, which is good enough if you're building this to, demo in your portfolio or something. Okay, so I think that is pretty good. There's probably, looks like there's a little extra space down here, and that's probably because, yeah, the paragraph has a margin added. I might just remove that. This is the only paragraph tag. I think I'm just going to remove the paragraph margin bottom 0. Okay, this thing is a little too much sometimes. It's helpful for IntelliSense, but sometimes the tooltips are a little bit much. I think there's an option to turn them off. Let's see. Settings, JSON file. I can't remember what the setting is. Let's look it up. Sorry, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it was driving me a bit crazy. Disable tooltip. Because I want the IntelliSense options, but I don't want the actual tooltip window. It's a little bit annoying, and you can see that I've been to this link before. Here we go. I wonder if I added this property. Nope, didn't. So we'll just add it in here. Editor hover enabled. False. Okay, let's see if that worked. So let's try typing the style out again. Margin. Oh, thank goodness. Bottom. It was just really getting in the way before, but now it seems better. Okay, because before I think if you just hover over a property, it'll give you that tooltip. And yeah, the only bad thing is it'll turn off the hover for everything, including the colors, but we have the colors ready, so I think it is fine. I'm back to the website, or I guess price block thing. It's not a full website. Okay, so this looks good. Let's move on to the second block, and this one was called subscription. So we'll sort of do the same thing. I'm trying to eyeball if the join our community text is bigger than the monthly subscription in YS. YS and monthly subscription seems the same. Join our community seems slightly different. So I wonder actually if I should make monthly subscription in YS H3s and make this 30-day thing just like, you know, a subtitle or something. Yeah, let's do that. So let's change this H3 to a div. We'll give it a class. I guess subtitle is good enough. There we go. So now, instead of community H3, it's community subtitle. Make sure the styles are going through by inspecting that. Okay, yeah, so using these rules. So now what I'm going to do is I can then add some global styles for the H3 tag in terms of the font size, and it'll affect both monthly subscription and YS. Oh, why is it popping up again? I guess there just isn't enough room to go underneath, so that's why it's doing that. Whatever. So font size, let's say a little bit smaller than H2. I think actually I want to move the bold. So if I hold down Alt and do arrows, you can move properties like that. Yeah, so I'm gonna make the font weight bold for all H tags, and then for H2, we'll set the font size there. It'll be a little bit smaller, not by much though, so we'll put 1.15 rems. That means we can remove the font weight bold from... Okay, so it's not there anyway. Okay, good, good, good. Okay, so let's go back to the subscription block. And we want that background color to be, I guess, cyan. So we'll do background color var cyan. And then we want the color to be var light gray. That's good. Maybe I'll do the same thing for these down here too. It's interesting. It seems like there's a few different colors. Like this per month seems slightly darker than white. So we can maybe adjust that with the lightness thing or maybe the opacity. So I think I might actually do a compound selector for both subscription and the YS because, you know, just writing a few less lines. Okay, so that looks okay. Monthly subscription. Oh, this should be H3, yeah. It did seem a bit big, right? Okay, so change this to H3 and also the one YS. So now it's a little bit smaller. Oops. Oh no, I closed it. No, I just minimized it. I think it needs to be a bit smaller. Okay, 1.1 seems good. And honestly, this 29 thing, it almost seems white. We'll just see how it looks with that light gray color. Okay, so we got subscription, background color is the cyan. Now let's do the $29 per month. So what we did here was we did subscription __ price, and then the span is bigger. So we'll take this selector, add a new rule, and we're gonna say the default style, we're gonna do the per month thing, which looks like slightly more than 16. I'm just gonna guess 1.5 rems. Oops, that's way too big. Let's try 1 rem. 1 rem seems good. And then for the span, oh, there we go, yes. See, I like not typing stuff, which is why the Kite IntelliSense is pretty good. Okay, font size is gonna be much bigger and probably bold also. So let's try 1.5 rems again, see how that looks. Yeah, it needs to be quite a bit bigger. Maybe 2 rems even. That actually seems pretty close. Font weight, bold. Okay. Now you can see the alignment is not quite there. We want it to be centered. So what I'm gonna do is figure that out with a little bit of Flexbox. So I'm gonna make subscription price display flex. And then I'm gonna say align items center. So there you have it. We centered things that were different sizes. And this, I have to say, is so much easier with Flexbox, because before Flexbox, I would have had to do an absolute positioning thing where I would like absolute position probably the per month thing, and then I would have to position it manually with like pixels to put it to the right of the $29 thing. But this is so much more intuitive. It's pretty great. Okay, so let's add that space. So we're gonna add the margin right to probably the span. Margin right, and it seems like it's maybe 1 rem or so. That looks a little bit too much, 0.8. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. And we want to make the per month text a little bit dark, or yeah, a bit darker, less white. So I think there's a couple ways we could do it. We could make a new color variable, but I think what I'm going to do is just use opacity. Just make it a little bit less, 0.9. See how that looks. So I'm going to save. Let's try 0.5, just to make sure the opacity works. Oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. Okay, that's a bit annoying. I think what I'm going to do is, I might have to use a color. We're going to be a bit hacky here and just go, oh, the color hover thing did work. I guess I just wasn't hovering over the right thing before. So how can I do this in the fewest lines of the fewest rules possible? The $29 thing does need to be the, you know, light gray. I wonder if this span should be on the per month thing instead, so that I can, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to do that. Span. So now it is, yeah, so the styles are now reversed, but that's fine. And I will have to change this margin right to margin left, because the span is now the per month text. And then font weight. Normal. Oops. Font weight. Normal. And now I can do the opacity thing. There we go. Okay, that's good enough, I think. Alrighty, so next up we got the full access for less than $1 a day. Looks like there's maybe some margin stuff going on here too. Oh, it's because of the paragraph. Let's get rid of the paragraph margin top too. Okay, so now I might need a little bit of space under the price thing. We'll say margin bottom, not too much space, 0.25 rems maybe. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then now the next thing is the, hold on, I think that text needs to be a bit smaller. So we'll say subscription P, font size, just a little bit less, a little too much. Okay, I think that's okay. Okay, let's style this button here. So it's an anchor link. And we'll just say, this is the only button, so I'm just gonna go subscription A. If there were other buttons in this design, then I would have to make these styles not in the subscription selector, but it should be fine. Now, anchor links by default are display inline, so if we want to add padding and stuff, I think we need to make it display block. But we can just sort of, I can show you how that looks if you don't set it. Okay, so the color is yellow. Background color, yellow. And then color is probably the light gray. I feel like that is not a very good, I feel like that's a little too small contrast, to be honest. So maybe we'll just not do that. Let's try color par gray blue. Oops. Hold on, people. I guess I don't really have like another thing. We'll make it white to try to make it more contrasty. Okay, I think that's better. I don't know. This is the design. It's not my fault. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to add padding. So padding, vertical padding, we'll just say maybe 0.75 rems. And then it looks like the button just kind of takes up 100% of the width. That seems fine. So you can see that because it's inline, the margin from the bottom of the paragraph is not taking effect in adding space. So I'll show you what happens when you set it to display block. So now the padding takes effect. Let's take a look at the desktop design real quick and see how it looks on desktop. Okay, so it's still taking up basically 100% of the width on desktop. I think it's okay to leave it display block. Display block will automatically take up 100% unless you explicitly set the width to be something else. So I think that's good. Now we want to center. And let's see what else we got to do. Some border radius as well. I think it's less than the outside border radius. How much was that? 0.5 rems. So we're doing about half of that, which looks pretty good, I think. It looks like there's a little bit of a box shadow as well. So box shadow, RGBA 000 to make it black. And then we'll add a little bit of opacity. So let's try 15%. Wait, I forgot. So the color is the last parameter of the box shadow. Box shadow needs to be maybe 0, 0, and then the color. Did I even do that right? Let's find out. And it works. Okay, so the first two parameters are the horizontal and the vertical offsets. So horizontally, I think I just want to keep it in the center. Vertical, I do want it to be moved down a little bit. You can see in the design, it's a bit heavier on the bottom side. So we'll say 5 pixels. Yeah, so you can see that. And then there's one more parameter for the spread, so how sort of diffuse it is. And that one can be greater, so let's try 1 rem for that. So you can see now it's a lot more diffuse. That looks all right. So 5 pixels, let's try 0.3 rems. Let's try 0.5 rems. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better. Cool. Let's see. So we need a little bit more space above the button. So we'll say margin bottom. Looks like more than 1 rem, so 1.5 rems maybe. A little bit more. 1.75. That seems good. Okay. This looks close to the design, so I'm pretty happy with it. So we got the joiner community, monthly subscription, and then the last one is the Why Us. And I think in the markup, it was, yeah, class is just Y. Y. Wait, where's the text for that? Is it even showing up here? Maybe it's the same color. Yeah, it's the same color. Okay. So I need to make the background color the light cyan. There we go. Looks a tad bit lighter than the design, so let's make it just a little bit darker. So that was 50%. Let's try 60%. No, wait, higher is a lighter color. Let's try 30. No, it needs to be 50%. It's a little bit darker than that. Let's try 45%. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. Okay, so this, it's kind of nice that immediately I didn't have to write any styles aside from background color, and it already took the H3 styles that I'd set globally and the padding. So that's one benefit to, you know, setting kind of styles that'll affect more than one element if they're sharing the same thing. Because I could, let's say if I set the padding individually on each block, the YS subscription and the first block, I could do that and like it would look the same, but then what if the design changes or it turned out you did it wrong? You would then have to go back, and for every time that you wrote that padding rule, you'd have to change it every time. So the fact that I did the padding sort of globally in the block with this rule here makes it much better for if you have to change things later on. And it also reduces the amount of CSS that you're writing. So I try to do that as much as possible with these sort of rules that will affect more than one element. Okie dokie. I'm just lazy, you know, I like making things as easy on myself as possible, so I don't want to write the padding rule like 10 different times. Okay, so obviously we need to take away most of the list styles here, and then it looks like the text needs to be smaller for sure. So, Y, UL, I think there's probably some margin and padding we need to get rid of here. Let's check that out. Yeah, so we got the top margin I would like to remove, and then that left padding as well. Margin top 0, padding, I guess I just say padding 0 because I don't want padding anywhere. And then YULLI, list style type none. There we go. So now it's just a list. Okay, let's make the text smaller for sure. Font size is, I mean, this is smaller than I think anything else in this design. Oh, maybe it's the same size as the gain access thing. What did I set that to? Oops, I need to add spacing there. Okay, let's get this font size first. Paragraph was set to 0.85 rems. We'll just do the same thing in a separate rule just because, I don't know, they're pretty separate from each other. And then we need to add spacing under the subtitle. One rem, maybe. Okay, I must have just like removed it with something else. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So let's finish this here. So YS, the space under YS seems okay. I think I'll add a tad bit more space between the list items. Very small amount, 0. maybe 3 rems. 2 rems. 0.2 rems rather. Okay. And it looks like it's also sort of not quite white. I don't know if that's just because of the JPEG. Honestly, I think I'm just gonna, just for readability, just imagine this is a real world thing, I think I will keep it this color. Okay, that looks pretty good. I guess I could add a hover state here, so let's just do that too. Subscription, a hover. So let's see, maybe we'll make it a little bit darker for the background color. So I guess I'll just have to make a new variable for dark yellow. Dark yellow. So lesser number is darker. Let's try 44. Oh wait, I forgot that I think on mobile it's not going to give you hover state. There we go. That's a little too much. Maybe just 50. So we'll just darken it by 4%. It's not quite enough. Okay, I think that's good. And then I also want to add a little transition so it's animated. Transition, background color. Actually, I think I already shouldn't transition properties except opacity and like transform. So I could actually, instead of making a new color, let's just comment this out for now. So Control K, Control C will comment. Let's make the opacity less, 0.8. And then we will transition the opacity property. And the reason for that is like other properties, like especially ones that affect the position of things on the page. If you change that on hover, you're causing the browser to have to repaint the entire thing. So it's more performant to only transition, opacity, transform, and there might be a few other properties, but those are the two main ones, I believe. So we want to transition opacity, and we'll say 200 milliseconds ease. So now, I guess the only problem with that is that it's sort of the whole thing kind of, I don't like how the background color changes, but also the text, you know, the text is affected by the opacity too. Let's look it up. CSS transition background color and then performant. Let's see if we get back anything. I'm just trying to see what people are saying in terms of what is better. Let's look up perform. Okay, didn't show up at all. Maybe we'll look up CSS. What properties can transition? All right, see what MDN says. See, you really shouldn't do this because it's not great for the performance of your browser. I mean, that's just what I've heard, and I've heard it a lot, so I think it is true. You know what? I think maybe we can we'll just do the background color one. Because it's at least not affecting like the layout. So if I'm wrong about this, let me know in the comments. All right, so now we got the background, but the text is remaining white. So it's much more readable. Okay, so now we got the main blocks going. What we have to do now is adjust the grid template for desktop. So this should be pretty fun to do with CSS Grid. So going back up to the price, and it looks like all the font sizes are the same between desktop and mobile. Yeah, I think they're close enough that it's not really worth writing the additional styles. Okay, so here we go, price. So now we're turning on display grid. And we want the grid template columns. I don't necessarily want to repeat, but okay, so for the template, there's going to be 2 columns because these 2 blocks are taking up 50%. The top one is just going to take 2 columns. So I guess we can say repeat 2, 1 FR, and that's a fractional unit which will divide the available space between the number of items. So each of them will be equal, which amounts to 50% when there's 2 of them. And I guess I'll do grid template rows too. Grid template rows. Are they the same even? This is about 218. This is 2, so they're different. So I think grid template rows repeat 2, and I think I can just set it to auto. So now I need to kind of try to trigger this. Oh wait, hold on. Let's make sure it's turned on. Oh. I forgot that we have to do media queries differently for PuRe CSS. So in PuRe CSS, you need to do the media query first, then you add the selector. So it's kind of opposite in Sass. Yeah, PuRe CSS is fine, but I would always use Sass in like a work environment just because there's certain things that make it much faster to write styles for. But they both work, so it's all good, right? So let's make sure this, oh, that's weird. Do I have to reload? Okay, it must have broken something when I did that. Grid is not kicking in yet, so let's zoom out a little bit. There we go. We'll make this a bit wider. There we go. So now this is the point where it'll kick in. Okay, so because we just made the grid template columns and rows, it just kind of auto places things. So we need to explicitly say that the joiner community is going to take up 2 columns. So what I'm going to do is, maybe I'll just add all the desktop styles under here. So we'll kind of add this. And we'll just leave it up here. So price, and then community. And we want that to be grid. I think I just do the grid shorthand and say we want to start it at the 1 and then end on the 3 line. And that didn't work. Probably did something wrong. Oh, grid column. There we go. See, I don't remember everything. I have to look up things quite frequently. That's one reason why I like doing these live coding videos, because you can see that, you know, people still have to look stuff up. So it looks like there's a max width thing going on here. So it's about 640 pixels. So we will add that max width to, I think, the price block itself. Yeah, let's do that. Max width is 640 pixels. So I want to convert that to rems. Since I don't have my nice little Sass mix-in, we'll use a calculator. 640 divided by 16 is 40. And I know that people like to use the 62.5% for font size for things, but I feel like I don't know. It seems hacky for me for some reason. And I think it was a really good workaround before like Sass came around. But I think nowadays it's better to just keep it at 100% and use, you know, Sass or calculator to add the proper rem value. Okay, so now it is capped and we want to center it, so we'll just do margin auto. There we go. Okay, this looks pretty good. Wait, is that it? Is that all I need to do? I guess so. Wow. Cool. So let's test this again. So if we go, so this is the desktop view, and we'll just kind of get rid of that. This is the desktop view. As you get smaller, it'll go to mobile, and it'll keep that padding so nothing kind of overflows in a way you don't really want it to. Cool. All right, and that's the pricing block. For the next few videos, we're going to be doing a bunch of building stuff, so if you're interested in that, stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.